Okay, this is my most elaborate picture that I have drawn so far. Looks like something a person could hardly know what I was picturing there. But if you can see this, it's like when I look at the light, I see these two areas right here open and shut as my eye opens and shuts. So I'm thinking I'm seeing my third eye. And because you don't see your eye outside of your body, but this is like the lids of my eye if I were looking at my eye from the side, opening and shutting. And what I see out here changes according to how much light I allow in by this opening and shutting of my eye. But basically, what I wanted to show with this picture is that color started coming into the light that I see, but it seemed to have started coming from my eye. My eye was coloring the light that I would see out here with this long stream that often weaves through all the things I see like a ribbon, and it gives color to the things that I see. Now I show it coming from my eye in a big stream, and it goes out here and it hits all the roundness of different strands of light. And this is really bright, but I can't show it really bright. I can't paint that kind of brightness. But like this would be my light source. I'm looking at this light. All these slivers of light can just open up and make a big kind of sun-looking thing with, and all these things are floating through it. The GTLs are in there. I show GTLs, the Gossamer threads of light. They just float. Bubbles of different colors move up and down and all around, and vortex all around too sometimes. And then there's these strange shadows that look like, at first I thought, well, that looks like a plant, because there's these strange shadows. Actually, when I first saw the first one of these, I thought that I was looking at my eyelashes, that they were getting in my view, but it wasn't that, because these things, I've seen them up closer now, and they're full of light, just like this light. They're full of many colors of light. And I know this is a weird picture, but this is the best I can do to show how I'm seeing the light. And I've got another picture I'll show you that might give you a different idea. When I see the light, it forms a big old bubble up portion like you were looking through a microscope. And then of course the GTLs float in and around in this, and you can see them up real close. And this roundness will sometimes be on its side, and on its side it looks like, pardon me, I'm turning pages here as I do this. Well, I'll show you this one. This is one where it breaks into so many little lights, and they just like water and fire at the same time. This is a strand of the light. And then this thing, let me tell you about that. I call it the black hole. When I look at the light and it makes its big bubble around, there is this figure that always stays in this shape. And I called it at first like a little cluster of eggs, because while GTLs moved all around it and sprays of light and bubbles and all kinds of things go around it, it basically stays in the same place inside the circle, which would be like right about there. And I didn't see this for a long time. This wasn't there. But then one day I looked to the lower left, because I see different things out of one eye and then the other, because sometimes I'm closing one eye and opening the other, and vice versa. But with my left eye, I started seeing this black hole. And this is a bigger version of it. And it has all these white rings around it that are concentric. They just go around it several times. And the inside white ring is real fuzzy, like feathery like. Now I have a better picture of that right here at the front. That inside looks like there's other things coming from this darkness that are spiraling. Little white spiraling things that seem to even sometimes come right out of that into this other area that I'm looking into. This, I know this sounds just so incredible. Like, it's not like anything I've ever seen in a book or studied or heard about. It's also unique to me. And the reason I'm talking about it is because I want to have other people know that they might experience something similar to this, and not to feel so alone, because I think it's going to begin happening to many other people as well. Already, I think there's people who see the little GTLs floating out and about, and they think they have the eye floaters. They think they have a physical condition. Now, these little GTLs, sometimes they get together and it's like they blow bubbles. But, and these bubbles become part of their bodies. And then their bodies just have all kinds of bubbles sticking together in weird ways. I don't know how to say how they look, because they can look any kind of way they get together to look. And they get together in some pretty astonishing ways. Here's a picture I drew of one. See, the bubbles come up everywhere. They come up in their bodies, and these bubble parts get real bright. And sometimes I think they separate and turn into a little thing sort of like that, because I see these things floating all by themselves. And these GTLs that are inside this bubble of light, the background for them is like encrusted whiteness that they emerge from sometimes, and I can only see parts of it. Like we're here at the end, this might be going into the background, frosted, encrusted looking part of the background. So I'm thinking that I'm seeing great depth, and in the background, the depth of it is just more of these, but they're not uppermost in my vision, so they look like a frosty white encrusted kind of material. And sometimes these things look like raindrops running down a window. Now, you see them written, you see them here where I just pinned them with the ink pen, but the color of it, it is like you're looking at something that's transparent, similar to raindrops running down a window pane. But that's just the closest I can get to telling what it looks like, because it's not exactly that, because it goes in every direction. And not only right, left, up, down, but backward. If I could show you, if I could draw that well, that you could see the depth. They seem to be going back this way and that way, and diagonally, every kind of direction, not just the directions you could see on a flat surface. And here's another one I drew. They get so jumbled up, it's like, okay, I'm seeing little light beings. They seem to be alive. They seem to be in a state of evolving into something. And maybe I will see what they're going to evolve into. I don't know that it will look like anything human. Nothing so far has any human look-alikeness to it. And here's a few more pictures. They just do so many things. But the GTLs, while they're very interesting, even more spectacular is the light that can come from these things making the bubble and showing me light coming up. I have some other pictures. Let me get to them. See, I'm not real much of an artist to be able to portray this, but I wanted to go back to this little thing I call the black hole. When the light comes up and just fills the air in front of me, I can put my hand out in it, and you can see my hand now in front of this. But if this were the light I'm seeing, the light would cover my hand. You wouldn't see my hand. You would only see this light. My hand might be right there in front of my face, but this light would drown out the view of my hand. It is so bright. And this is a traveling thing, this little black hole. It can be in any part of the bubble, but when it bubbles up certain ways, even when it comes toward my cheek, the light that comes toward my cheek, this little thing will float over into it. And sometimes the other thing that I call the cluster of eggs will float over into it. There's two things that are pretty much always, I'm going to see them somewhere in what I'm looking at. I showed you that one where the light is just coming that way. Okay, now here's an opened up bubble of light. And this is the form I first saw before I saw the black hole. I would see this. And I made up a name for it because I always saw it, and it looked like to me the shape of a geisha girl bending down and maybe washing someone's feet or something. She just looked like she was in a bent over service type of a posture to help someone. Because these little round egg cluster-like things are always grouped in this same formation. And this moves around. Sometimes this moves around and it's right in front of the black hole. But basically it has one part of the roundness that it stays in, which is right here. And these little bubbles, I show them with a little bit different colored ink to let you know that these are all kinds of colors of bubbles that come through this. Now, I don't know what all this means. I have theories. I don't know if everyone who sees the light would see it this way. They may see it entirely different. And I can only talk about it as to my experience of it. And I think I'm doing not such an inadequate job because, oh, there's the horn. We live near the train crossings, and they always are coming and blowing their horn right in the middle of me making a video. I guess I'm off track here now. I keep on trying to draw. Oh, I'll show you this. Now, I'll turn back to... I wanted to turn to the page where I drew the side where the light was coming through my eye. But naturally, I can't find that page. Oh, there it is. Okay. What I am trying to do, since I make things out of wire, is I'm trying to make this with wire. Because when this light comes from my eye, I see like a spiraling tube of light. And it goes into this area where there's the different circles of light that can go up and vortex around and make a big old splash of light just twisting and turning. And up here at the top, like it's a vortex that goes up and makes a widening in its funnel, and then the funnel top just moves around to the right and around to the left. When I'm looking at this, it's almost like I'm looking at a machine, a light machine, because it basically does the same things in all kinds of ways. It makes these big shadowy things. It has GTLs moving through it, bubbles moving through it. It has a ribbon of light that comes sometimes from my eye. I see it coming from there and then moving out into some of the other versions of this that I don't show on just this one page. And I'm always trying to capture it, so I'm trying to make this thing out of wire. I'm not done with it, but I'll show you just a little of it. This part would be where it comes out, and I'm going to put color on this part of the clay and cover the whole thing in clay and try to show it three-dimensionally. It's like this light is part of who I am, coloring what I see that's out here around me. I'm going to have to begin again in another session because I've run out of minutes here. This is the Dove Lady. Talk to you again in a little bit.